It's
Hey, what's going on, dude?
Hey, what's up, DollarCost? Good to see you, my friend.
Hey, what's going on, dude? I had to take everyone off, so me and you could talk one-on-one, just like RG does, man.
Right? No, I need the need to have the tank top on, actually. You know.
Oh yeah, dude. So what you been up to, dude?
Not much, dude. Not much. The normal stream, the normal weekly stream on Sunday is something I'm still doing, and then kind of between like the conference itself, I had some some one-off live streams that were kind of just randomly timed, but kind of just still following all the Hexicans, and I think a lot of us have come to the consensus that there is a shit ton of content that sometimes is kind of hard to keep up with. You know, it's like a full-time job within itself.
It's starting to get the schedule's starting to get a little bit tight to try to stream on right now. Like it's damn.
It's not even tight. It's just overlapping at this point.
Yeah, it's really hard. That's a good thing though. I think that's a good problem to have, because if you have basically people overlapping with streams, like it just shows how big the community is. So I would take that as like a net positive instead of like basically I know it's like hard scheduling, like everybody has their day-to-day schedule, and that's just kind of the reality of the situation. But if you see streams overlapping like there, it's like that's something you just don't really see, like in terms of the community presence.
Incredible. So Discord syndicated. Oh, sorry.
You go.
So Discord Syndicate just started doing Thursday shows. Connects is running it, and they're doing it in the morning so we can reach the European audience, because right now we're doing this late, right? So most of them are asleep. And it was cool. Like this morning, he ran it a little bit earlier, so I was actually able to hop on because it was before work. And so like I was literally on a stream with someone from Poland, from the UK, from Germany, like all over Europe, and they had their own stream going, their own time, and it's getting to the point where it's 24/7. And it was kind of funny too, actually, because me and El Hexidente had been introducing the guy that I was telling you guys earlier about with the Hex lamps and coins. He hadn't looked into Hex yet, and so we're El Hexidente was onboarding him, and he kind of, like, as we talk about collabing on the coin, he was telling me, it's like, yo, like I don't see any other community like yours, like in the space right now. He's like, I've never had my products bought up so quickly. I've never had it promoted so well. He's just like, everything's just like went off the shelf in like seconds. And I was like, it's going to be the same thing when you do the coin. Like if you do the coin right, it'll be the same way. And like, initially it was funny because he stamps his company name on the coin, to promote it as he distributes it. I was like, you don't even need to do that. The Hex community I guarantee you, they will tag you, they will promote your business. If you give them a good product, they will go to the ends of the earth to shout your name. And we've done it throughout this year. Between Uniswap, we've made popular, through Nomics, we've made popular, over the whole gatekeeping with Coin Market Crap and CoinGecko. And it just shows you the power of community. And it's really that X factor that doesn't necessarily get mentioned all the time when you're talking about these coins.
Those rams are awesome, but I also want to say it's quality and quantity simultaneously.
Right.
Not a single other community that I know, even if they do live streams, they don't talk as eloquently as we do. They don't speak as intelligently. They can't chain a bunch of sentences together in a cohesive thought half the time. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. And where was I going with this? The fact
you were off to a good start.
Yeah.
Thanks. The fact that we always have overlapping streams lets somebody constantly be hearing about Hex for an entire day, week, month, because they have to catch up to it, right? People don't only have 24 hours in a day, and when they're not listening to a stream. And I hope to, as a side tangent, I really hope everyone's SEOing their shit properly, because if you're not tagging Hex Crypto or how to buy Hex, where to buy Hex, or whatever else you might be interested, underwater basket weaving, I don't know what Brand's into, but it's probably interesting. And
you nailed it a second ago. Underwater basket weaving.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So cross pollinate, because that's how you do outbound messaging. But that outbound messaging kind of sucks people into this vortex of never-ending Hex streams that is constantly going, and you'll never catch up no matter how bad you want to. Because Richard Hart's videos alone are thousands of hours of free content. Our videos that we're doing now, we just did an hour, and we're just going to keep cranking through. But I think that's the power of not only does it hook you in with the the mad gains and the cool tech and all that, but you stay for the community too, because there's always somebody to talk to. There's always some shit to talk in a chat somewhere. and you could always do whatever you want. There's somebody for you no matter what you're into.
Yeah, and like if you look at because oftentimes what you see with like live streaming and just trying to like even just promote channels like through social media outlets, you get and I'll kind of describe how it relates to the Hex community. Like you get most people tend to like fight over like things like streaming, blah blah blah. Like the Hex community just works together and just like everybody's basically promoting each other, because like that's ultimately what's going to increase like the value of Hex over time. Like more and more people are going to be aware of it. There's tons of free knowledge out there. Like the stuff that comes on these streams is worth, like, I'm not even kidding, like it's free content that's worth money, but the community is giving it out for free because they know it benefits the product, and it basically keeps having a growing network effect where everybody's supporting each other, and you're just going to get word of mouth out there much faster as a result. Like even if you look at it's just incredible, because this is really the first time like I've ever seen like so much like everybody just helping each other out, just getting word of mouth out there. And that's really the part that's important, is that is going to have a much bigger impact on where things go, 5 to 10 years from now, versus more of like a cutthroat type of environment where people are trying to like step over each other, things like that. And that's why this community and this product is going to be successful over very long periods of time, because we're starting to even see like success stories even over like the first year of existence. You're seeing certain brackets within the community hitting millionaire levels, and that's like over time just keep adding zeros to like the balance. Like that's what's going to happen over time. So you're going to see that effect basically trickle down the ladder, and you're going to see more and more of these success stories popping up. And the thing is, these stories are going to be like, the community is basically going to do a really good job like getting the word out there and just seeing how amazing like this community is. So I mean, this is even cool. Like all of us like on the stream right now, like where do you see this kind of stuff happening? Like, let's be realistic here. Like I don't really
look outside the community a whole lot, so
yeah.
But I don't think it's happening anywhere else.
And that's why I mentioned like the guy that didn't have any involvement in the Hex community, and like in just a short time he like became aware of it, and it's just like, yeah, I haven't seen anything like you guys in the space right now. Like,
that's good to get that validation. And I do want to stress too that you don't have to only talk about Hex. So it's like we like Hex a lot, but we talk about a lot of other stuff too, right? So we talk about whatever's interesting, especially in crypto, because that's what I know, it's what I love. But Dollar Cost likes that too. But I mean, I'll talk about whatever weird hobbies like anybody's into. It doesn't matter.
Most weird hobbies.
Yeah,
might have to draw the line at some point.
No, we do have Hexicans everywhere. Even like Richie Rich Crypto. I saw him kind of doing some like cooking videos and whatnot, and kind of just venturing out. And it's something like Gary told me this a lot. Funding Jim or Gifting You Hex told me this a lot. But he's like, he pretty much said the same thing. Like, yeah, you don't only have to just stream about Hex content. Like if you can find something that you're good at outside of it, or something that you're passionate about, the cross promotion really goes a long ways.
Yeah.
Just Pornhub music.
Black Magic is something to sell over here. He wants price predictions. He wants moon math.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Yo, actually,
$50.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right.
All
Let me see. I just saw a really good.
It's like building up the pressure.
Yeah.
You could go ahead.
I just sent you the keywords.
SEO. Yeah, I saw that. Thank you. You can go ahead and pull that chart up too that I sent you, DC. That shows you a rough estimate on your multiples of X on principal on staking.
Or do you send it?
I sent it to Telegram. It was a model some of the guys in Hex Pro Chat made.
Yeah.
Now Hex is a dynamic system, so you guys kind of take this with a grain of salt. I believe when they did this, they did it as the system as static. So, but this kind of gives you an idea of what you can multiply your principal on over the time periods, depending on your stake length. And also, fun fact, I put a tweet out today, but I was seeing what the minimum amount of hex you need for one T-share. It's currently 5,555 hex for one T-share. If you stake it out, to the maximum of 10 to 15 years. So I thought that was pretty cool.
I saw that, dude. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And I even heard Dollar Cost mentioning one time that, like, when he was talking about laddering and just staking hex, but a lot of people don't really consider how powerful that is. Yeah, 3 times the shares, or 20% more shares every year longer that you stake. That's a big deal when you're talking about like long-term ladders and earning 3 times the T-shares. That's nice.
Yep. So 20% per year out to 10 years. After that, the 10 to 15 year mark, which you'll hear a lot of Hexicans saying Cuatro Cinco. At that point, you don't get any more bonus shares, but we can talk about the advantages of locking in that T-share price.
You want to show your
were you not able to blow it up?
No, I was doing it through Twitter.
Let's see if I can make sure not to dox myself.
Dox yourself.
Don't.
Dox yourself.
Let's see.
Definitely. Let's see the.
Okay.
Oh my God! I almost pushed the end broadcast button by accident.
Oh, glad you did do that. All right, I think it should be going now. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it. Let me.
Yeah, it looks good.
Okay. All right. So this is a model. Some guys in the Hex Pro chat, they're a lot better with mathematics than myself. They had to kind of reevaluate what our multiples of X were going to be on the principal after Big Payday, because a lot of the models that were ran, they weren't run to essentially, I believe we had about 98% completely staked on Big Payday. So most of the models were not actually accounted for that. So that's how you probably, if you go back and look at old Hexican content, people were saying 250X at 15 years and 80X at 10 years. And everyone's like, that's just like absolute madness. But that's what it would have been if we continued on with how much percentage staked we had at the time. But then we got close to 100%. So this is kind of a renewed model for everyone. Again, Hex is dynamic. So don't, this will change. It'll depend on emergency end stakes and moving through time. But this is a rough idea of kind of new numbers. So you can see as you're building your stake ladder, what kind of returns you can look strictly on your principal. So right now the average is just shy of 5 years, I believe. I think we're looking at like 4.8, 4.9. And as more and more shares come out of the system, the average is going to start moving to the right. So we're going to be looking at about a 5-year average. So you definitely want to make sure you're kind of hitting that point, if not a little bit beyond it, because that's where you're going to see that maximum APY. So you're going to be getting like on average right now about 40%. So if you look right here, like 2025, that's where the average is at. And we're looking close to about a 5X on your principal, roughly. Again, take these with a grain of salt, but you're looking on average as a 5X on your principal.
Whoa.
What's that? What'd you say?
You hear that?
There's two of you.
Oh, I think it's yeah.
I don't know what's going on. I can't see anything.
Is that God damn it?
Are you in my room? Are you right behind me?
Well, anyway, 5X.
Yeah. So 5X around 5 years on average. Again,
Without big payday, correct?
Let's see. I don't know if they actually include this into Big Payday or not. Multiplier estimate for stakes starting in 2019, 2020. I believe they designed this after Big Payday. So I think this is without Big Payday. Yeah, it had to have been because they redid it after the fact. So this is not Big Payday included. What's that?
Our charts
yeah, our charts are gonna be elevated because we got about 30% bonus on everything via Big Payday. So if you were in before Big Payday and you have what RG3 kind of claimed as Genesis shares, you're gonna add at least 30% to these numbers. And then once you start hitting the 10-year mark, this is the last year that you're gonna get bonus T shares. So you get 20% bonus T shares up to this point right here at the 10-year mark, 2030. So you can see here, you're looking about a 20X just on your principal alone, just on your principal. And then this is the kind of effect that I just want to talk about. Now you don't get any more bonus shares, but as time goes on, you can see we absolutely start seeing crazy returns on your principal at the 15-year mark, almost a little bit above 90x. And that's strictly because as time goes on, a beautiful thing about Hex that's completely unique is share price is always going up. Share price, you can never buy back in the next day after your stake ends for a better share price than you had the day before. And so as time goes on, it's going to require more and more economic mass to buy the same position that you did previously. And so as you lock in these long-term stakes now, these 5, 10, 15-year stakes, as everyone else's shares come out of the system and they're burned, you're effectively having a pie that shrinks around your slice. So that pie of T shares is actually getting smaller, smaller, smaller. It becomes deflationary, and your slice remains locked in at whatever T share price you bought back in the day, maybe pre-big payday, or even within the first year or two of launch. You're going to have a much larger slice of that pie for a lot less economic mass than what people are having to pay 2, 3, 5, 10, 15 years down the road. And then that's going to effectively give you crazy ROI on your interest. You're going to be accumulating. I believe my 15-year stakes right now are getting like almost 60% APY right now. Like it's madness. It's madness. So this just shows you kind of the effects and stuff that you can do. So even if you're, say, someone who doesn't have a lot of money to move in, you can leverage your time with Hex. And that's the beautiful thing about it. Someone who might have a small stack today, you might only be a tinkering turtle, or maybe you're at the bottom end of a squid. But if you do a staking ladder properly, or you leverage your time, you can become the new dolphin, shark, maybe a whale someday, depending where you are in the system.
Let me
Yeah, I think I just stopped sharing.
Yeah. So I just had a consultation with somebody where they've got enough coins right now in the market that their complete staking strategy is just they're staking from year 5 years from now to 15. They skipped the first 5 years completely.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's very smart. If you can hold through that, that's very smart, because that's actually what I'm doing right now. Is I'm constructing my second staking ladder where I'm only doing 5 to 15. So I'm filling it in and fattening it up, because that's where you're really going to see some serious gains, is at the 5-year mark. And then after that, it's off to the races. So like I'm not even touching the first 5 years before.
You can wait, which I didn't want to. I wanted 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But you're going to wait out probably the entire next boom and bust cycle of crypto. So you don't have to really worry about, timing any kind of bull market.
Right.
Mm.
Like 5 years will probably be at the low of the next cycle.
Yeah. That's true, because that's kind of what I was like at least planning ahead for was, I was just gonna assume, like, if you're staking, let's say, I could be way off on this, but just for speculation purposes, like it's totally spot on that there's going to be boom and bust cycles where the market over time, like you have these huge like impulsive waves like during the bull markets, and then you get these 80 to 95% retracements during the bear markets. But over time, like the higher your average stake length is, you're basically positioning yourself for what could possibly be like the early stages of like the next cycle and so on. So I have a similar strategy that whatever stakes I'm building out in my ladder now are actually going into, they're actually going, let's say, between years 10 through 15 for the most part. And I'm trying to basically build up that ladder over time. It's going to take me, the thing is, like, the ladders are something you can keep building up over time. And this is literally going to take me, even though I have like a certain minimum of T-shares that I've like acquired at this point, I still want to now work on, my next goal is basically filling in certain gaps in the ladder. And
can we go to Hex.vision while he's going over this? It'll be perfect. If you want to do share screen and do that, I think it'll be good.
Sure. Yeah, because there's a huge opportunity on the stake. Because what's really important is now that we have a lot of content we can access to build out our staking ladders. So I'm gonna flip to Hex.vision.
All community built, mind you. This is all people that are just incredibly talented.
Yeah, we were such noobs in the beginning. Oh my god.
I know. I know.
Terrible.
It's disgusting how quickly, like, when I onboard people and they just get it, I'm like, this crap took me half a year. Yeah.
Giving away months worth of information in the matter of like less than 10 hours, maybe.
Yeah, in a couple hours, you can literally divulge what's taken all of us over a half a year to learn.
Now
Yeah.
Thinking about the staking chart right here, though.
What's
on
that?
On the staking chart, I was thinking like how there's a big, buy or potential sell pressure wall coming up, but then I sort of think there's going to be some segment of the population that doesn't understand the long-term thing, and they're always going to be staking, let's say, this giant bag of Hex for 1 week from now, and then cash out the interest and restake 1 week from now, because they're looking at it like a perpetual income machine, but only on the weekly or monthly scale. So I feel like there's always going to be this giant wave of that we're kind of pushing into, but it's not as bad as it might seem, because a lot of those people are doing this short-term perpetual rather than long-term perpetual. Like what we're talking about is a long-term perpetual cycle. A lot of people probably just have 80 million and they're going to try to take 1 million every 2 weeks or something.
Yeah.
Real quick before you take off, can you zoom in on the largest candle there coming up soon?
Yeah, sure.
So Silver has talked about this, and he's following this wallet. I believe the largest candle, that is actually a majority. That's essentially one wallet that has about 1.8 billion stake. What's that number on there?
Really close, 1.4.
Yeah, something like that.
On the Ides
What's that?
Literally has it staked on the Ides of March. Like, what the fuck?
And so this is kind of the big move, right? Like, so we have a lot coming out over the next this, but you can see very quickly after that large stake, it just trails off to just nothing. There's no supply. So a lot of people are kind of because that one wallet actually is the majority shareholder. This is going all off Silver's info. It's the majority shareholder in Hex. I believe he has like 700,000 something T shares, something like insane. And so it's kind of, people are making plays and adjusting right now, whether or not they're not sure if this person's going to sell, if they're going to restake, what have you. If I had to place my guess out there, someone who is the largest shareholder in something like this, something that's this revolutionary, they're probably going to continue to try to maintain their position. So we might see a fake out. We might see some sell pressure before this. And then there's going to be some very volatile, very potentially rocket ship inducing moves that take place around that time frame. So you definitely want to keep your eyes on it.
Do you see that second biggest candle?
Right
Which one?
That one.
Yep.
That's me.
That's me.
Okay,
I just wanted to touch on that real quick.
Well, I think it's interesting. Like, we're all kind of hoping that it is somebody with a lot of skin in the game that's doing a restaking strategy, but you got to be ready for anything. So we're not going to bullshit you as if we know who that is. I have no idea who that is. I would love to believe it's the origin address, because who else would have a casual bill to stake? I don't really know. But if somebody really bought up $1 billion and staked it until March 15th, that seems a little weird to me. So I'm kind of siding with Motley on this one. I don't think it's going to be devastation, but we don't know for sure.
Watch it let something out or something.
Yeah, the game theory that I would probably go with, again, it's not financial advice or this. I think it's just it's kind of like a punk fake out. Like, this dude clearly has some serious money. I believe he's got a very large amount of ETH in his wallet too. And staking it here at this point, it gives him a chance to kind of reevaluate. And you're going to have people that are going to probably sell down into him, trying to front run him. And then guess what? He gets to just absolutely regain a crazy amount of his position, buy up cheap Hex, and like, it's off to the races for him. Like, he'll be set. He'll be set. So I think we're going to see a little bit of a fake out move with him.
That's the way that I see it. Like, it's going to be a win-win either way. You know, so many of these. It's so funny. Hex is a time deposit where we're locking up for at most 15.2 years, 5,555 days. And then people that are, clearly like short-term time horizons or traders are like, they're so short minded when it comes to like a 1 year. Like here's the thing that I look at it is, either way, when they do that unstake, it's going to, at least the T-share price never goes down. So that'll maybe, go up just a smidge. And then the other thing is, even if the worst case scenario happens and that person, say they sell a lot of it, well, then that just means that we can scoop up their bags cheaper. That's the way that I'm looking at it, is like definitely an accumulation game. And I think when Coffee or someone else that mentioned that, or maybe it was Dollar Cost, but that the people that they know, they just skip the first 5 years. Like, I keep the long-term perspective.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is with the staking ladders, because if it kind of goes back to like when the product first launched, and I'm sure there was a lot of people that were just getting familiar with like staking ladders, and just even just the game theory, because it takes time to fully comprehend the potential. It's a lot easier now because there's more knowledge of how to build out ladders, how the game theory works. So there's more tools and information available for people coming in now versus back when the product first launched. So if you look at when the stakes are expiring, generally, whenever somebody's setting up their staking ladders, you don't want to overlap with other people that have stakes expiring at the same time. And I think it's also just, you have this scenario because like where you have basically these huge spikes because like there wasn't really that consideration, because really let's say they want to be more stealthy about this huge stake, right? And let's just say for this discussion, let's just say it's basically just the stake that's expiring, and let's say in the future they want to be more stealthy about it. Well, instead of having this huge bar on Hex.vision, they could actually reduce the size of this and set up multiple stakes and then ladder it out over this entire time frame, filling up gaps that actually make sense, where that way, like when you have, let's say, stakes coming out, you're not basically drawing like too much attention. Because I mean, and somebody may say, oh, like, is that like good or bad, blah blah blah. Like in terms of staking, like for example, if you look at, let's say, year 2030, this I think was the first 10-year mark in terms of getting the highest amount of T-shares. So at the time, since nobody was really planning as to like having their stakes coming out at the same time, you have a lot of overlap. Whereas now, since this information is it's more known amongst the community, there's now there's kind of a greater incentive to kind of strategize so that you're basically positioning yourself where you don't have these huge spikes on the ladder. And I'm sure like what you're going to see over time is, as you see stakes expiring, they're also going to use this information to set up their future stakes. Right. And I wouldn't be surprised to see like you're going to start to see some of these gaps getting filled up, and kind of more of a uniform distribution like on the ladder, instead of having these spikes come out. But really in the short term, the biggest stake we have is the one on March 15th. And then it really starts to taper down substantially after that. And really, like, it's pretty amazing, because now when their stakes are expired, they're going to be using this information and kind of planning ahead accordingly. Because maybe they weren't aware that their stake was going to draw this much attention that we're now talking about it on Livestream. Maybe they're going to take their stake and like try to like break it up into chunks and then just kind of distribute it over a longer time frame. But it really depends on like what their goal is within the system. Like they can, if they want to, let's say, have maintain like dominance relative to their T-shares, they're going to have to basically keep playing the game versus other whales in the system, and kind of leapfrogging that out over time to maintain the T-shares. Because that's the other thing that's really important, is like your average stake length. And ideally, if to get ahead, you want to be above what the average is, so that you have a chance to ascend within the ranks, as opposed to kind of fighting with other people as far as like being able to increase in rank over time. So where I'm starting to basically fill in stakes is between the years 2031 up through 2034. And then if I start to see this get a little bit congested over the next couple of years, I'm basically just going to keep looking further ahead to the right, and that's the idea. You just keep looking further ahead, and then that's really the way to kind of preserve your wealth over time.
I think what's cool is you're going to also start to see that 15-year mark continue to build up, because when Hex is not at a point that Hexicans find profitable, or they're just not interested in selling at that point. I found in activity, a lot of those stakes that have been built up at this point are just people rolling over. A stake comes out, hey, I'm not interested, maximize my T-shares, because you can still grow your T-shares from previous stakes that you've done earlier, and maybe you're not happy with it. You already have a ladder in place, so you're able to just continue to roll over to the 15-year mark. And what's going to be beautiful someday is when we actually do, if you reach it to fruition of these 15-year stakes, and you've continued to add on, like, so for me right now, I'm adding on monthly at the end of my 15 years. when I get to my 15-year point, I will be having stakes that will have me potentially somewhere between 80 and 100x at the end, just on my principal alone. And I'm going to be getting that on a monthly basis. Like that's going to be mind boggling.
Yeah. And the part, sorry, go ahead.
When Richard calls this a chart of future market supply,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a lot of people really, myself included, realize like how cool that is. Like this is all of the future market supply that can ever come out. Like there's no other supply coming from anywhere. It's all visible on this chart. There's no dark pools or anything like that. It's all on the chain right here. So all you have to worry about is pretty much this chart when you're planning your stakes, is the chart of future market supply. Because I mean, yeah, more hex is created from inflation, but all that inflation is only paid to the stakers, right? So it's not just coming out liquid on the market. It's coming out in these locked up little chunks over time.
Yeah, realized over 15 years.
Yeah.
Depending on what level you want to think about it, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shout out to that one dude trying to front run everyone in 20 in the 15 in the 555 stakes. That guy right there.
This one right here.
This one, he's like,
how much is it? What do we got?
This one here is this is 37 million hex expiring, but also like this.
That's still nothing too. Yeah, it's just kind of funny.
No,
yeah, this is just
like he's like the one dude that is like there's just people doing the 555s out there, right? And then a couple smart people did like some 13s, and then or some 14s, and this Chad over here just like, no, I'm gonna front run everybody else.
Yeah, I mean this is honestly a very great like. There's a lot of places you can basically because what's really nice is like if you're actually building out a ladder in this range now, you're actually maximizing in terms of the T shares since it meets like 10 years or more. And there's always this like kind of psychology where somebody sees like a huge stake coming out and it's like, well, like, are they going to sell their entire bag? Which like, nope, like every, like I would say rational, investors or just whoever wants to preserve wealth over time, it's never a good idea to just liquidate like all your holdings in one blast. Like that's where you put yourself at risk of getting left behind in the market, because you can liquidate, let's say, your entire stake, and then you're at risk of basically the market ascending to higher levels without you, which often like that is what happens like after like in theory, let's just say theoretically, like there's a lot of selling pressure during this time period here. Well, whatever coins that get sold off, there's now a lull of like stakes coming out. So that selling pressure disappears. And then the price basically can easily adjust like after that. Like once you have less selling, like the price is obviously going to go higher. So in terms of the staking, what's really valuable over time is the Terra shares or the T shares. And truthfully, like by the time we even get to year 2030, 2031, most people in this market are not even going to be able to afford a single T share. Like that's a term we're using during this market cycle, but it's eventually going to start to propagate down to like B shares and so on over a long period of time, where it's kind of similar to, let's say you look at like somebody that holds like a quarter Bitcoin today versus, like eight years ago, the same amount of like economic mass would have bought them way more coins at the time. So they would have a much higher rank within that network. So the same thing is going to apply to Hex. And what makes it more interesting is the fact that you have basically T shares, and there's basically an incentive amongst the bigger players to preserve their wealth over time versus other whales. Whereas in Bitcoin, you don't have that same game theory. Like everybody can just hold their coins, but then they're getting inflated away over time with like miners selling. Whereas in Hex, like you don't have to worry about that, and you can actually wisely basically still preserve your T shares without basically substantially losing like your entire bag. And it's going to be pretty crazy just how much money some of these stakes can be worth 15 years from now. It's gonna be pretty wild.
And that's the thing too, right? Like I even see this kind of fallacy with even OG Hexicans. We talk about how expensive it is to get Hex and all this stuff now, but like the amount of coins you have is almost irrelevant. The game is T shares. The whole game is focused around T shares, getting as many as you can now. at the reduced price. And just like LookIntoCrypto was saying, it's like people will not be able to afford a t-shirt at this point. We already hit at one point, we were about worth half of an Ethereum for one t-share, and that was literally, we're barely a year old and we're at the half of value of an Ethereum. Like, people will not be able to form T-shares. So the verbiage will get changed over to B shares. It will not be a thing. So it really is a game of how much can you position yourself for future with T-shares now that you can actually afford, because you will not be able to maintain as time goes on. And we have this.
Sorry.
We have this big period over the next couple of years where you're still able to add to your share rate by continuing to staking out and leveraging more time. But that will eventually not become a thing. Like, you will not be able to take your stake will come out, and even if you stake it for the maximum length, you will start to lose T-shares. T-shares will become deflationary at that point.
Right. And I think what is the maximum amount of T-shares in the system? Is it like 10.9 million or somewhere close to that?
Like currently? Are you talking about currently?
Currently.
Are you talking about absolute?
I guess both scenarios.
So I think someone ran it was what, close to Bitcoin supply, ironically enough, like 21 million, 23 million.
Yeah. No, I think it was higher.
I'm talking about singular shares though. Like, I think there's like in the quintillions of single shares, maybe.
Oh, we're talking about shares. Yeah, maybe it was like 21 or 20,000 T-shares or 20.
It's over quadrillion. I think it might be septillion actually, or would that be? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it's kind of weird right now. I'm staying in the shared Airbnb, and the one guy, I was talking with him for hours. I've been trying to tell him about Hex. He's really into crypto, and he's like convinced that it's like a scam. And I'm like, dude, and I'm like trying to convince him it's not. And I told him I have 15-year stakes. And he's like, dude, we gotta figure out how you can get rid of that, and you're gonna lose it. Yeah, and
that's the funny part. You can't.
He's like, tell me how I'm gonna lose it all now and everything, and I'm like, dude, what? Like, no, man, and he just can't. He can't get it.
Ryan, we got to work on your sales pitch, bud.
yeah, dude. Yeah, man. Hey, once Richard Hart finishes that list with all the counter arguments, I think that could be helpful.
Yeah,
you know.
Definitely. And that's why he said he's taking it upon himself, because you can have people do stuff for you, right? Just like Coffee's been working in the design chat with the new Hex website and everything coming out. Like, people can do that. It still takes a degree of talented people, but like for Richard, he sees something like the rebuttal list being very important, that no one else can handle that to his degree as far as knowledge and counteractive wit and stuff like that. So the rebuttal list will be very good. If you're not able to really sell people and really describe Hex 100%, I'm sure the rebuttal list will help in your adoption, getting people on board.
Yeah, definitely. This guy's main question was who pays out the interest, and I told him it's generated through the smart contract, and I told him like 10 times, and he can't get it. He's like, can't get it. And I'm just
refer back to the traditional. Just refer back to the traditional finance system. Just like we print USD, Hex prints its own currency. That's all you gotta do.
Yeah, but it's the code and the smart contract that does it. I don't understand why people think there has to be a human being doing all this stuff, pulling the strings in the back.
Yeah,
that would be frustrating for me, man. I'm I've never ran into
it was tough, and he's so concerned, and he's convinced I lost it all now, and I was like.
I love the fact that he said we try to have to figure out how to get you out of those 50 mistakes. It's like, nah, we can reconvene in 7.5 years, but before then, it ain't happening.
That's hilarious.
Or something. So
around 8 years from now, people are going to emergency unstake 15-year stakes.
Can we talk about that? Can we talk about how amazing that is?
Yeah, I think this was maybe a couple months ago. I was on this entire kick on the Discord syndicate about I don't know if you guys ever heard of me saying the Hex super cycles. What's going to happen? So
can you go over it again?
Yeah. So the first super cycle we're going to end up getting, or a little mini cycle we're going to get in Hex, is this next time we ramp up to 10 cents. You're going to have people emergency unstaking 1-year stakes that end up sometime from now to December. right? And then the next one after that, the next pump from about, once we go to anywhere from, I don't know, 10 cents to 25 to 55 cents, people are going to emergency unstake year 1, 2, and even possibly 3-year stakes.
Okay.
Yeah, and what's going to happen at that point is the price will go down, crash, right? We'll recover back up. If we're still in a bull market into 22, we go into 22, and there's almost no stakes for 22 for the most part, because people are just stupidly emergency unstake stuff. You'll still end up having 20% of the hex that's going to be staked between year 21 and 22 still there, but a lot of people are going to emergency unstake that. So you're going to see there's just a lot less selling pressure in terms of just stakes coming out. And there's going to be a lot more hex in the Uniswap pair, I think, as well.
Yeah, and if we have that like within like an Ethereum or Bitcoin super cycle, I think things could get very wild in the next couple of years.
Yeah,
there's a ton of different variables.
Yeah,
And let's just talk about the actual, like, what kind of impact emergency and stake penalties are going to have, because like now people, you know, they enjoy it when it happens because obviously the staker class gets paid. But honestly, this is pennies compared to what it's going to be in the future when these larger stakes that have been accumulating interest at 40, 60% APY that are like 10 to 15 year stakes, and they decide they want to end at that 5 year, 7.5 year mark. All those stakes, all those OG stakes, all those stakes that were done that have been accumulating interest for 7.5, 10 years at 40, 60% AY, and then gets released to the staker class. That's going to be some serious money. I think right now we're sitting at what, like $1 billion or a couple billion. I forgot what it is, but you're probably going to be talking about potentially like maybe I'd have to have someone actually look at the math, but it's going to be substantially higher. And guess what? You're going to have that larger, or you're still going to have that same slice of the pie that you had back in the day when you locked in your share price, but that pie around you has shrunk over the years. And so guess what? Now you're going to get a larger percentage of those gigantic emergency end stakes, and you're going to see your stakes just absolutely grow when we see these, just like DollarCost was talking about, these cycles and waves we get, because it'll happen when people emergency end stake, and you're going to have these amazing stakes that have 10, 20, 50 T shares, 100 T shares, and they're going to be giant stakes in the system that are collecting giant returns when these big stakes end. Like, it's going to be a lot of money. You're going to see some fat stakes coming out.
And
Yeah.
go ahead. What's that?
Actually, you could go, because I could show another chart afterwards.
Yeah, let's see it.
Just wanted to say I gotta head out. So.
Okay.
Later, Coffee.
All right,
Thank
All right, man.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for
coming.
coming.
See you, bro.
See you later, guys.
So, and one difference between now and like 5 years from now is 90% of all the stakes in Hex right now are stakes with big paydays attached to them. So people are emergency unstaking their big payday stakes as well, which is bad, dude. That is like that right there. Oh my god, dude! It's like I can't even imagine, dude. Like,
isn't there like a special, like you get penalized even more with the big payday bonus or something like that, or
interest?
You just lose all that big payday stuff. I don't even think you receive any of that. You only receive your simple interest.
Big paydays just count as interest. So I'd have to go look up the formula, but it's in the layman's guide. So it's just included on the interest side when calculating your penalties.
Okay.
So Staker app will make it all easy for you guys. So when you go in, if you need Staker app, because when you go to do it, it'll tell you like how much you're going to lose. It does all the math for you if you're not math savvy, or if you want to do the numbers yourself, the equation is actually in the layman's guide. But yeah, big payday is included on the interest side, so it's going to give you the penalties are going to hit you harder if you're below 50%, or if you did less than a 90-day stake. If you end before that, it's going to hit a lot harder.
Yeah. And what's your guys' like opinions now that there's not that many Hex like available to buy? I mean, do you think this could lead towards significant price appreciation pretty quickly here, or like what's some of your guys' thoughts that you kind of been thinking about that?
Yeah, I think it's gonna cause some serious, like, massive pumping, like just unbelievable.
I gotta get some beer for this conversation.
Yeah, because I guess like one like a lot of the analogies like I see on Twitter, which I think are great. Like, it's a great way to compare it. Is I think there's one Johnny Chaos that makes like the analogy to diamonds, and effectively like what's happening is you could think of basically Hex itself as a resource to buy T-shares, but that resource has become 4 times as rare. So as you run out of that resource, and then as those resources are being used to basically lock up their coins over long periods of time to be able to mint more coins in the future, you just have this huge supply. You just have this huge shortage of just that available resource. Like this is where I think it's really difficult for people to wrap their heads around basically just inflation in general. So for example, for Bitcoin, you have, I think it's like over 2% Bitcoin that gets mined per year, but all of that gets completely dumped onto the market, adding to like the circulating supply. Whereas like in the case for Hex, you have 3.69% inflation, but there's supply locks where you actually don't really see that supply coming into that market, and you still need to use that same whatever cut you are getting of that 3.69%. You're using that to basically buy T-shares, which are a finite resource. So you have already a rare resource like with the Hex, and then you have a finite resource, the deflationary one, with the T-shares. So we've never seen anything like that where you get this. It could bring the prices to levels we just can't even comprehend. Like it's so insane. Like I can't even really, like I've seen what crazy crypto charts look like. Like if you look at what Ethereum did last cycle, like we could see some serious movements that just 2 months at a time. Yeah.
But also I think we can also see moves downwards as well. Easier. But I think in the long run, it's gonna kind of just go up because it's more rare, paying interest and everything. But I think it's just gonna be more volatile now. But
that's the point. I mean, look just on the stream, Ryan. Like so, LookIntoCrypto and I were buying last night, and him and I alone bought up several % of the total supply that's liquid right now. Like the two of us made a dent, and we looked at the liquidity pools. You're looking at like a little over 50 million for USDC and E. So you're talking about a little over 100 million Hex that's out there.
That's just so rare now. It's just so rare, and I think it's going to be easy for it to hit 10 cents, 50 cents, even $1. And I think this year there's a really high chance that we can kind of see some crazy numbers. Like really,
it could get crazy. Like DollarCost was talking, or LookIntoCrypto was talking about. Like it can literally, we can't wrap our minds around it, how quickly this can move and leave you behind. That's why you need to get your positions now. And both of us, we were talking back and forth, and our original plans were to kind of DCA. And then I think by the end of the night, we pretty much, what we did have on hand, like dry powder we had ready, it all went in. Because and Johnny Chaos, I always like to bring this up, talks about when you're arguing between like an entry point of like 1/10 of a cent, is it really going to matter if you end up missing that window and it pulls away, just like the ETH chart, that we never see these levels again?
True. And what's the quick math then for if there's like liquid, or if in the pool, if there's like right now there's like there's like 550 ETH. So if somebody puts in that same amount of ETH, what does that do to the price? That squares the price, or that I don't know if any of you guys know that offhand.
It 4x is the price.
It 4x is it?
Yeah,
4x is it, and then 2 lowers the other side of the liquidity pool by 2x.
So effectively by I guess some of the liquidity pool holders, whoever pulls out some of the liquidity, I think they pulled half of it out, I think, on the Ethereum side, Ethereum Hex side. So effectively they made it almost 4 times as easy or twice as easy to pump it or dump it. Essentially, if you dump it, if you sell into it, it's going to be more. So increasingly, the volatility increased 2 to 4 times, and then on top of that, you have now the Hex to USD side, which is now equal to the Hex side. And here's the whole thing with the USDC side is that it's easier to actually pump that, because as crypto goes up, the number when you exchange Ethereum for USDC on Uniswap, the number of, because if Ethereum keeps going up in price, you get more and more USDC, and then when you buy into the pool, you wake up the Hex price. as well.
Mm.
So we've effectively made it. I think we've essentially, let's just say we're taking an aggregate between the two, right? The USDC side makes it twice as likely to pump, and then the other side makes it 4 times as likely to pump. So basically, we've essentially Hex is about 5 times more pumpable now.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's
Ryan,
nice.
my guy that I just onboarded a couple days ago, so he's doing a wire transfer. He's going to put in about 60,000 into Hex.
Shit,
And like we're playing with the numbers today. He alone will do almost a 10% price impact with that 60K.
Wow.
So
And
spread it out?
60K would get him like how much Hex currently?
I'll check right now.
Yeah, I was about to say. I don't remember, but
Let's see.
'Cause, yeah, he better get that in before a big whale comes or something.
That'll
So-
get him 5.8 million
did you do ETH or USDC pair?
USDC.
Okay.
5.8
Motley,
million.
is he going to do it all in one go, or is he going to do like a couple different buys?
So I was telling him he should probably break it up, but we'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, because I guess
Okay.
when Michael Saylor put in all his like 500 million into Bitcoin, supposedly he did it in chunks. You know, like small little chunks,
yeah.
like 100 million here, 100 million, whatever. So like, could be good to kind of maybe break it up. But again, who knows? You know, who knows?
Yeah,
Really.
he would move it to get himself 9.54%.
He
if he was
did
to do
that
it.
on he did that on Gemini and Coinbase. He did that on multiple exchanges on an ordered book exchange. He didn't. You can't really even do that like on a Uniswap.
This is different. Yep,
This
it's a
is
whole
different.
new
So
game.
Yeah, because this is the shit that happened to me when I was trying to buy up a bunch of Celsius back in the day.
Mm.
There really wasn't that many people. What I would have to do is I would buy a tenth of an Ethereum of Celsius, come back 4 hours later, then buy another tenth of it, because I would keep the liquidity was so low that I was wicking my price over myself. So I was stuck for a day. It took me weeks to get my position essentially.
Mhm.
Like I mean,
Yeah.
Wasabi knows.
Yeah, I guess I was about to go into like sorry, continue. I was going to slightly change the topic, though still related to the whole slippage people are mentioning
for
in
it.
the
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Cool. Yeah. So what's really important to understand, like with the way the liquidity is set up now, is like, yeah, it's like in theory you could have somebody basically like fat finger a sell, but the thing is the penalty to do that now is far more severe because they are causing that slippage. And what I'm trying to look at, and this is just me. I'm only one person, and there's people with a lot of economic mass. Like I'm just basically a person in the market that. Truthfully, like I have my bags, but I'm not a market maker in these order books that ultimately really big players are pushing to higher prices for everything: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Hex. So the thing is, when you look at the liquidity, there's probably ways on Ethereum at this point. There's probably ways to set limit orders. So you could actually set like limit orders in case somebody basically fucks up and accidentally sells like too much of their bag, and what it would do is wick down the price, and then you just see the price basically shoot back up. It's almost like you have like a very brief, like in theory, somebody could mess up and cause like a very brief like flash crash that then basically instantly gets like wicked back up, because you still have the buy side pressure that's going to come in and fill the gap, because the like if you look at Hex itself as a resource, even if they fat finger it, it's still like it's already a rare resource that you're trying to do to buy the T-shares. So you're going to have the buy side pressure just basically completely wick the price back up. Like a good example of this was there was a pretty crazy like it was just like a flash crash on Ethereum on like a 1 minute, or it was maybe even smaller. It may have even just been like a 1 second candlestick where there was basically like an algo bot that accidentally market sold like their entire stack. And it wicked the price down to like $14, or it may even been lower than that. It may even went into the cents. Like there was this huge wick on Ethereum that then just instantly shot back up. So whenever somebody's basically using Uniswap and things like that, like this is really for the big players. They have to be really careful not to accidentally wick the price down, because they can literally accidentally like nuke their entire bag and transfer it to somebody else for just like a fraction of the cost, and then you get an instant bounce back on the price. So I think it's really interesting seeing like how the liquidity has been basically adjusted recently, because yeah, it's like if you want to, it's like, okay, like you want to sell 200 million hex, well, you're going to pay a penalty to basically do that.
And also
Good luck.
with that, would you say kind of a similar example would be like right after big payday with Hex, how it kind of dipped all the way down to 0.002 and then it just kind of bounced up, and then it's been kind of rallying since then. But whoever sold like within, I don't know, like a day or two, already their position just got kind of like somewhat nuked because they just transferred to someone else for like really cheap. And you know, and it hasn't really gone. It doesn't look like it's going back down to those levels, and like it's just kind of slowly rallied up. And when I was looking at that analysis, I thought that looked really similar to like back with the COVID dip with like Ethereum and Bitcoin, like everything just flash crashed, and then it kind of bounced up, and then ever since that point, everything's been kind of rallying up. So I thought that price action of Hex right after the big pay looked very similar. So I mean, but yeah, I think that's a good thing to point out too. Is like the whales have to be careful if they try to like unload a lot. There could be other whales or other people now, since it's not too liquid, that could just scoop it up, and then boom, the price is right back to where it was, and they just fucked up.
Yeah, and that's why I'm gonna figure out how to set these kind of, because what I'm expecting is like even in this is still long ways out, but like during the bear market, you sometimes see like these huge, and really whether you get hit, it just comes down to luck. It's really basically somebody else like panicking, fucking up, selling like they basically panic sell like their stack that causes like that very brief wick where you can actually get lucky and get your targets hit. So there's just going to be orders that I just set in like on Ethereum that I'm just going to leave and forget and see maybe one day somebody will fuck up and accidentally like liquidate their entire bag. Cause that's the thing. I'm on Uniswap right now. And in theory, if there was somebody that tried to step in and market sell, let's say like 200 million hex, they would wick the price down by 77%. But the thing is like, you can just the buying pressure that would just basically buy up those coins is like, it's incredible. Yeah. So if you actually have some like spare ETH to the side, it may be worth basically just trying to set aside some limit orders in case somebody basically accidentally nukes themselves. Because at the end of the day, it's like, you know, like, yeah, they'd obviously be really pissed off that they did that. But at the end of the day, they're the ones that like panic sold, and now they lost their bag to the market that is now, it's basically just kind of the whole wealth transfer mechanism. So that's why like the staking ladders are reinforced so that you're not emotionally tied to like what you're holding in that instant to make like, let's say, one of these mistakes. Because the nature of the game is like, as we went over earlier in the stream, that the markets themselves spend more time consolidating. And in fact, you probably even have more, I haven't checked on the Ethereum chart, but there's probably just even more red candles, like way more red candles on the ETH chart versus how much time is like on an uptrend. But the uptrends are very fast. Like they're over a couple of months at a time, where you basically get these huge expansions and these life-changing gains. And you're over time, like your price floor is basically ascending with the market. So even with your staked coins, to avoid, let's say, being, let's say, overly emotional, it's actually probably not like necessarily like a good idea to like constantly check what the prices are. Like right now it's fine because we're still like in the consolidation, but what you guys are going to see this market cycle is we're going to have a huge expansion. There's going to be the expansion phase of the market and then the contraction phase. And the contraction phase is where you're going to have people emergency unstaking, transferring their coins to the people that are set up for the next cycle. So now their wealth transfers to the stakers, and then the stakers basically get the subsidy before the next cycle even starts. Like it's going to happen. And that's why like you just map out your plan like well in advance, and then you can really see amazing things. Like it's incredible. So I have basically my plan already set up, and whatever I have staked, like nothing is getting emergency unstaked. Like I don't even really care what the price, like I have a rough idea as to what the prices could be during the next bear market, just using Ethereum as a reference. And even at bear market prices, like the interest that is being generated is just like, it's insane. Like I'm already making like so much money on interest. Like I don't want to like necessarily like dox like how much I'm making off interest, but it's a lot of money, guys. It's a lot.
And this is the conversation that LookIntoCrypto and I were having last night, and you can see why it's just FOMO inducing, because you realize like it's the same thing with other markets, the stock market. Like you're going to make a majority of your money within like 5 days of the market. So like you have to be in there. You have to have your position. You have to have your plan strategy set up. And yeah, like between going back and forth of that, like our dry powder was gone so quick.
Yeah.
We had. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, one thing I've been asking people too recently, and Motley and Look Into Crypto, I'm not sure, what your guys' particular ladder or staking strategies were, but my question would be, did you guys kind of have any stakes ending in 2021, some early stakes, and kind of what's your technique for those going forward as those end? Are you kind of like, are you locking in profits? Are you restaking those for longer? Kind of what's your plans with some of your early stakes? Because with mine, and I said before, as I look back, and like the one thing I think, 2021 having those early stakes is just kind of like, I don't know, I feel like it wasn't really wasted, but if I can go back, I would probably do those for longer. So with mine that I have ending this year, I'm for the most part kind of just restaking those like longer term, just so I can really preserve the T shares. Because when I looked, and then if you look at your ladder and you see, okay, 2021, 2022, 2023, and your T shares are just kind of like slowly getting burned as your stakes end. And it's like, and then you just have to think to yourself, okay, wait a minute, maybe I should do some long ones, or just kind of really be sure to preserve my T shares going forward. So I wasn't sure if you guys had any kind of plans with your short stakes, or what you guys were kind of doing with those.
So we kind of touched on this earlier, and it's not even maintaining. If you have a proper ladder set up in place, you can grow your shares right now. And that's what I kind of spoke on earlier. This next year to probably, I'd say maybe around 3 years, we'll see. I haven't really done the math, but you are able to, any small stakes you have coming out or stakes that you have coming out, you are able to still grow your shares by maximizing your time, leveraging your time out further. There'll be an eventual point where that's no longer the case, and you will get deflationary on your shares. You're not able to leverage your time to continue to grow. But that's why for me, for a majority of my game plan is going to be to just continue to accumulate all the way out. The stuff that I do have that does come out, most of it will be getting thrown to the end of my ladder for the next 15 years, because I want to continue during this accumulation phase where I can still grow my T shares and grow my position and the system. I want to do so. So that's much more advantageous to me. I might take a little bit of profits along the way. I do have a couple ones that are coming out this year. I might take a little bit, but then again, what are you selling the value of those diamonds for? Are you selling them for the price of marbles, or are you willing to hold on to them and wait until you start realizing what their true value is, which we could be talking upwards of quarters, 50 cents, $1, maybe numbers that we can't even wrap our heads around right now at this point. And it's just it's a regency bias as well, right? Because a lot of us on the stream are OGs, so we've been here since one Satoshi. So anything from this point just seems almost unfathomable to us. And then that's just it's going to become a forethought as we get to our new price floor. And next thing you know, someday we're going to be sitting at a quarter, 50 cents, $1 hex. And we're like, wow, man, I really wish I'd just thrown a couple more of those stakes out to the end of my staking ladder, and I could be making multiple hundreds of X's more than what I took a profit back in those first couple of years. So that's really what you got to put that mindset, especially for us OGs that have been in so long. You really kind of take a step back and put yourself in that position and realize what you might be giving up for your future self. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it, because like in terms of because I'm kind of on the side where when I first set up my stakes, like I wasn't as knowledgeable as I am like today. So when I set up my initial staking, like I just like if I know what I know today, I would have actually constructed my ladder a little bit differently, because I understand how the T-shares work today versus when I first set up the ladder. And my plan is like when you're going through these market cycles, what a lot of those that last the longest and preserve the most wealth over time, what they'll do at certain points is like the market could go to levels that are pretty unfathomable, where you can basically, like if you have like, let's say a stake that's expiring, you can basically prune off. It's kind of where you can still preserve, let's say, your T-shares by staking those 1 year stakes out longer, but you can do things where you can perhaps like prune off like a certain amounts like of that stake that's coming out to basically lock in, let's say, like basically profits that you can move like into other investments, and then you could take that same that whatever's remaining and stake it out longer and still get more T shares versus like the 1 year stake that you have coming out now without basically nuking like your entire stack. Because I know once you get to like the stage of like, let's say, profit taking, even like there are going to be points in the cycle where people are going to take it's like where you see basically the emergency on stakes. Like there's going to be a combination of like high emotions that do it, or for somebody that's like kind of more calm with the and just kind of tuning out with the market. Like Richard basically describes it in his streams where you can basically peel off and then restake your coins for a later point in time. So the peel off approach is what's gonna that's gonna allow you to preserve your T shares at least for the first few times you're able to restake it if you're staking it out longer. So there's ways you can basically still get you can pull, let's say, profits out of the market, but still maintain like your wealth in the system over time. And then that way you're not getting overly emotional to like the volatility that is going to come. Because I could tell you like Ethereum, if it goes to, let's say, some unreal number this cycle, it's going to get completely bear markets are going to nuke the entire market, but all that really matters is the price floor shifting up. And I wouldn't be surprised to see the price floor, like if you compare the price of Hex today, I wouldn't even be surprised to see the price at like 3 to 4 cents, like higher than it is today during the next like bear market, wherever that is. And I'm not sure where the next bear market is, but it shows like, it just shows how important it is, like these consolidation periods, because they do eventually allow like the price to shift up over time, because the expansion phases of the market are temporary, like those last during the bull market cycles. But the thing is, like, if you're content with the interest you're getting today, and if you're content with, let's say, multiplying it by 3 to 4 times the amount it is today, and this price talk is speculation. I don't know if this is going to be the exact amount, of course, but like let's just say hypothetically the price during the bear market is 3 times higher it is today. If you multiply like the amount you're getting today by 3, like that's a lot of interest that's accruing during a bear market, a time that you don't even really want to you want to basically keep holding on to it because you want the next market cycle and so on. So the thing is, like, you never want to just completely sell like your entire bag once you get it. Like you just prune amount that makes you happy, and then it gets to a point where you don't even really have to look at the price day to day. Because I can guarantee, like, this is where I think during the bear market you're going to see a lot of emergency unstakes, because a lot of people, myself included, I look at the price a lot, which is because that's we want the price to go up. Obviously, which it is. It's going to go up. It's going to go up a lot. The hard part is going to be during the bear market side. People, like, they're going to see the number go to this unreal number during the bull market, and then they're probably like, there's going to be people that aren't going to be prepared for the bear market side, like the contraction phase of the market cycle. So the staking at least like prevents you from making that mistake. And then the peel off approach that Richard mentioned is just a way for you to, he describes it basically as everybody gets the feast, and you can basically do that without completely annihilating either your bag or like during the bear markets where people are liquidating their bags, like annihilating the price until it hits a higher low. And then you hit a new reaccumulation phase that sets up into the next market cycle. So the ones that have, let's say, that long-term mindset, that have a good way to peel off, are going to do extremely well. And there's multiple ways you can do that. If you want to set really long-term stakes, let's say 10 to 15, which you can, once you do that, you're committed. You cannot emergency unstake that. You could also hold like a certain percentage of your stack like liquid, where you want to peel that off, and then perhaps you want to restake whatever coins you have coming out. So there's kind of multiple ways you can go about that. So
and also one thing I was thinking, which I kind of talked with Dollar Cost before, and I'd like to kind of ask you, Looking at Crypto, and Motley, and whoever else would want to tune in, is like, you know, at some point, I feel like, you know, with these kind of the bull markets, the bear markets, at some point, it's kind of smart to like take profits at some point, you know. So I guess my question would be, if you've thought about it, you know, what would be your particular profit-taking strategy as we go into this next bull market? You know, have you thought about kind of like how you're going to approach that? Or are you even going to, you know, even take profits at all? Or you're just going to kind of keep playing it long? Do you want to maybe do like, you know, maybe dollar cost average out in some things? Or I'm not sure if you kind of have any kind of strategy for, you know, locking in profits, just because, you know, if and of course Hex may not perform similar to like other coins like through the like past cycles, you know, the past bear cycles, but you know, if it has some kind of similar performance, holding through that 2017 bear market was just like was miserable. So if you can even lock in little percentages just at, you know, when it's really when you think it's at like a really high overextended point upwards, it could really kind of save your position or save you some like just time of years of whatever. But again, you know, with Hex, when you're locked up and you're staked, you're accumulating that interest over the time. But I mean, you know, there's a lot of variables, and you know, and it's hard to predict what's going to happen. But I just wasn't sure if you had any particular kind of like profit taking, you know, strategies kind of in mind that you wanted to like apply during this next cycle.
I mean, that's kind of what we just went
guys.
later,
Oh,
Brand.
Thank
man.
you for the opportunity.
See you, bro.